I think we're live.
Hey, good to see you again, Cindy.
Yeah, good to see you also. We are going to chat about connecting with locals today. So, welcome everyone who's with us on our chat. And if you're, I think we're live. Oops, there we go.
Hey.
That's what happens when I do that. Um, so they can just put your name in there, let us know you're watching, talk to us a little bit as we're going. We'd love to hear your questions. We've got some tips to share with you today about connecting when you travel, which is like 90% of the reason
Yeah,
we travel, right? Just to see things and to talk to new people, right?
right. And you discover so much when you can interact with the people that actually live in these places. Yeah, they share hidden places to eat or
Yes.
whatever you're looking for. It enriches your tour.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think that's, like I said, a biggest portion of why we go. Not only people watching in your own country is amazing, but people watching outside of your country is better.
Yeah.
And there's so much we can learn from people when we do this. So super excited about chatting about this. We're going to talk about two different things. Some things you can do before you go to set it up so that you have some locals to chat with, and then some ways you can do it when you're there. And really, there's no one answer to this. So if you have ideas, let us know what ideas you've got. We're going to share with you ours. So let's talk about some of the ideas we had for before we go.
Well, before we go, it's a lot easier nowadays. We have so many ways to connect with the internet and all these, meetup places online, Facebook. I mean, these
Right.
Facebook groups are huge, especially for anyone kind of in our age group and beyond. I think through the
Right.
pandemic, unfortunately, we all got used to being online. That is a fabulous place. Find a group that you're comfortable with. If you have concerns about safety, there's groups just for women, there's groups just for bicyclists, there's groups for any interest.
Right.
And just literally say, hey, I'm looking at going here. You don't have to tell them exactly when, but if
No.
you start a conversation, you may find someone's like, hey, when are you coming? And private message me. I'd love to share my hometown. I'd love to share this. So,
Yeah, and you might already have like an online relationship with people. I mean, I
yeah,
know I work online with people, so there might be people that there are in Facebook groups with, and you kind of know them a little bit. I mean, obviously, you want to be safe, so don't tell them where what hotel you're staying at, and don't give them
right.
all those details necessarily unless you have that kind of relationship. But you can meet them for coffee, meet them at a museum, meet them somewhere so that you can have them share. Everyone loves to share their hometown. Most
Yeah.
people do. Um, I say just don't be afraid to ask because people do.
Right, right. And like I said, just use your senses about you. Be
Yes.
safe in these Facebook groups. But honestly, there's so many wonderful people in there. Oftentimes, you'll make new friends. Oftentimes, maybe they want to introduce you to their family. But yeah, choose a public spot and
Yeah. And
do
even
it.
there's Facebook travel groups, but there's also regional groups. Like I have a
Oh,
neighborhood group. I live in Los Angeles, but I live in the Silver Lake Echo Park area, and we have a couple of Facebook groups just for our neighborhood.
oh,
And I
nice.
promise you, if somebody like jumped on there and said, I don't live there, but I'm coming to visit, anybody got some ideas, we would have tons of ideas. And somebody might like pop in and tell you about a music thing that's going on, or you might meet with somebody that way. You may not meet someone online that way, but you might learn about what the locals are doing. So you might
Right.
want to go look. I know when I went to Iceland, I found an Iceland group, Facebook group, and people were traveling. There was also some locals that were sharing some information. So there's lots of places on Facebook to connect with people. And then we talked about meetup groups, right?
Right,
We
right.
met this way.
Yeah, exactly. I've met some of my best friends on Meetup. So Meetup has groups in these areas. I'm also connected with others. Like if I'm going to go to, I think it was London, I went in and found a London photography group and just asked if anyone was in there that could share some. You can always ask for like, where would you go? What are some
Right.
hidden spots to take photos? Or, start the conversation that way. And if you're not feeling like you want to actually meet up, at least you might get some information, or they might turn you on to someone that is willing as a meetup group, like, hey, we're doing a Saturday,
Right.
walk around London, like we've done in LA. Same thing. If someone were to say, hey, I'm coming to LA and you were doing a secret stairs walk, by all
Yeah.
means they should
I
join
would
you.
tell them, yeah, all about it. And even if I wasn't doing one, I might tell them how to do it themselves or where to go, or and
Yeah,
especially if they're apprehensive about it, there's lots of places with that. And Meetup has different topics, right? So you were like
right.
with photography, you have an interest, so pick an interest. I've definitely done the wine tasting with women, like a group of women that are getting together, and wine tasting in a different city or a different country. And you just check and just let them know, I'm not planning to join your group forever, because I'm only going to
Right.
be there for a week, but I'd love to meet you. And most of the time they'd be excited to have a guest appearance from somebody else and share that. You
Yeah.
could even do it. I had a running group here in LA. I would get guests that come in and run with us. Another way for them to meet locals. We're all locals, and we would get together every Saturday and run, and then eat breakfast together. So having
I
someone
was,
join,
yeah,
yeah, it was like, for us, it was like a guest speaker, right? Like they would
right.
come and
Yeah.
we'd find out where they're from and what they're doing, and just kind of jazzes up the day. And for
And
them, they connect.
right. And food is a very popular topic, by the way, on Meetup. And I
Yes.
know there's like brunch groups and
Yes.
lunch groups. So if you have an interest in food, what better way to find out about some of the local places or
Yeah.
new places? A lot of times new places, they don't have as many reviews on,
Right.
say, TripAdvisor or Yelp. But if
Mm-hmm.
you find out about it from the locals that are going to go there and check it out, and just ask, like, hey, can I
Yeah.
come? I'm coming to visit. I want to join your brunch group. And what a wonderful way to connect with people that live there, enjoy a meal. Oh, sounds
Yeah.
like a win-win.
It is always a win-win. Meetup's great, and Meetup is international, so don't be shy about looking at those things. The other thing is just a real obvious. We talked about friends and family, right? I mean, it's really
Right.
easy to connect with the friends and family you're in touch with, but I have a large extended family. I have lots of aunts and uncles and cousins. So it's sometimes I just start asking, do we know anybody who lives in
Right.
Chicago? Do we,
Right.
just, you'd be surprised who you
And
could connect with.
yeah, and even coworkers, if you're in the office,
Right.
sometimes someone in the organization, maybe your business is part of a larger organization, so they might say, or same thing, maybe they have a mother or a sister or an aunt or uncle, someone that'd be like, oh, my mom would love to meet you. I talk about you all the time, and
Right.
I'll let them know. Maybe you can meet up for dinner or same thing. You can get coffee
Yep.
together, that kind of thing. And it can be a wonderful way to expand your exploration of this place you're going.
Yeah, because I've even asked friends and family, and they have friends, and they'll say, "Oh, I know somebody who lives there," and it's like, "Oh, would they be interested in
Yeah,
having dinner?" Because again, if you just go by what's in that guidebook, right, or what's on
right.
TripAdvisor, you're having the same trip everyone else is having,
Yeah,
right? So if you're going to Italy and you have a friend who's, met somebody who knows somebody, even if it's just for a cup of coffee,
yes,
you'd be surprised what you're going to learn in that moment,
right.
right?
Yeah,
that
and
you
it's a
would know
great way
otherwise.
when you're traveling with your family or your friends. I mean, you're stuck with them, so to speak, for the whole like week to 10 days. So why not, spend a meal with some
Right.
people you haven't met or some extended family, some relatives of relatives, and you'll just have an amazing time. The conversation will completely change.
Yeah. And think about like some naturally curious questions you can ask. So I visited a coworker in Houston, and he asked, what kind of food do you like? And I said, what I want is, I want Houston food. What do you guys eat? Like if you were taking your daughter out for her birthday or whatever, let's go that place. Like, where do you
Right.
go? And so if you have an authentic question, like somebody came to California and said, where are the best tacos? I would take you to the taco truck down the street from my house. Those are my best tacos.
Right,
It's not a
exactly.
restaurant. We'd eat on plastic chairs. That's how that would be. But everybody, you would have a totally different experience,
Oh,
I
you
promise,
would,
having
right.
tacos with me than you would if you did the TripAdvisor tacos.
Well, that and it's like you already have tested out that taco
Yeah.
truck, so I'm gonna trust you because it's easy. You see all the taco trucks around, and you're like, "Do
Which
I try
one?
that
Yeah.
one? Yeah, which one's good?" I mean, even with like little restaurants and strip malls, there are often some really good gems in there.
Yeah.
But you can spend hours like going into TripAdvisor or Yelp or trying to pick. It's so much nicer if someone recommends a place and wants to take you with them or
Yeah.
meet me there. You feel like, right, you've been invited into something really special.
Yeah, and having like a unique question to ask, like I love breakfast, or I like diners, or this is the kind of food I want, or I'm a big coffee fanatic. Where do you like to drink wine? food is a great topic. But having that, like, narrow it down a little bit for them. Just go, hey, I'm coming and I want to know this. And you'd be surprised. People just jump right up and give you some answers and probably volunteer to take you to their favorite spot.
Right. Or even a special interest, like whether it's photography, asking where something scenic is. You can just say,
Mhm.
I know where I can find all the guidebook places
Right.
that, where would you go on a Saturday? Where's a really pretty park? Or
Hmm.
even if it's like vintage or thrift stores, I mean, what is it that you like to do? Think
Hmm.
about what you would do if you were in that town, if you're a sports fan or music. I mean,
Right.
just a
Right.
great way to do what the locals are doing. And
Yeah, and find out where do they go for,
right.
that kind of stuff. I think the last thing on our list but to do beforehand before you go is to look at your lodging. And we talked about all the different types of lodging that can make a difference. Now I stay in hostels, but I'm going to avoid that one because if you're looking for locals, hostels are full of travelers,
Right, right.
which is a great networking opportunity, but you're not meeting locals there typically. But you will meet locals in Airbnbs.
Yep.
Oftentimes they're hosted by someone. Sometimes you don't meet your host, but you can
Right.
specifically ask for that. Um, Couch surfing, I bring that up. A lot of people maybe wouldn't be comfortable couch surfing, but couch surfing is a community. So you might
Right.
check the community out, even if you're not staying on someone's couch somewhere, even if you're staying in a hotel somewhere, there's an entire community of people that are meeting up and talking. Couch surfing has an amazing community of, getting together for, drinks or dinner together, tacos, whatever they're trying to do as fellow travelers. And there are a host of people who will host people in their home.
Yeah.
They're wanting to connect with travelers. I feel that way. If somebody comes to my community, I want to meet
Yeah.
someone from Germany or,
Right.
wherever they're from. I love that. That's like traveling myself, right?
Right. And there is like Hostess Sister is another one,
Yes.
good one to put out there
Yes.
too, which they have a Facebook group, and they also oftentimes, there are women that have an extra room. But even if you don't stay there, it's a great community to say, I'm coming to this town, I have a place to stay. Can we meet up for, coffee, or, I'd like to see a local
Right.
band, just as we were talking about. And
Right.
bed and breakfast, I always
Yes.
recommend, because, and most of the time, the owners are wanting, that's part of the reason they've opened their inn, their little, and in the
Right.
morning they may have lots of people there. So if you can connect with them ahead of time, they're more apt to have time to answer some questions or help you when you're in the planning stages. And they
Right.
can often point you to, some of those questions of whether you're going there for spring flowers or fall foliage or a music festival. Asking questions ahead of time, they're a wealth of information. And I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times they've saved me on a busy weekend in New England. Everyone's at the main tourist restaurant, and I'm like, well, where would you go? I'm sure you go out to eat every now and then. And then they point out a pub that's down the road, and down a dirt road that I wouldn't have tried had they not told me about it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we often talk about like the mom and pop places, right? Look for
yeah,
all of those places, both hotels and restaurants and all of that, because they're going to give you, they're both, their local stuff of what they do. And even befriending the folks at the front desk. I know when I was in Vietnam, I always was chatting with the young people that were running the front desk and the bellhop, that sort of thing, because they were college students
oh
and,
yeah,
they have all kinds of energy and they go places, and you could just ask them, well, we're thinking about going to eat, where do you guys go? Not where do,
right.
now where tourists go, like where do you and your friends go to visit? So asking those connections are always good. We have some questions, some folks are asking.
Oh
I'm just going to
good,
read here.
yeah, pop
um,
in.
Joel Spence from Sydney is on, and Katie McCarthy is on. So hi, both of you. I see that you're asking. Joel wants to come for tacos.
Yeah, I bet he does.
I think Katie's telling us a story about a hotel gym. So I'm going to read all that because it'll distract me to read the couple sentences there. But that looks awesome and crazy things that can happen. So I think we covered most of our beforehand stuff, right? What you
Right,
can
right.
do beforehand. And now we have some things to do when you
When you're
actually get
there.
there, right?
Yeah, right. So when you get there, we made a list of some things. Get off the beaten path. As Cindy and I, we talk
Yeah.
endlessly about this, but get away from the tourist locations. And
Mhm.
again, be safe, but also be open. We often talked about, if you're on a road trip, yes, it's easy to get off the interstate and visit the restaurants right there, but pop in and the clerk behind the counter will be probably more than happy to tell you, where, like, ask them, where would you eat? Where are you going to go eat dinner when you get off work? Where did you
Right.
go? Where did you get your coffee other than here?
Right.
Where I just want to get away and relax, or I want an area to walk. They'll often tell you where the downtown area is or where the little mom and pop diner is.
Right. Right. And there's always something that's such a, weird place. I know uh, there's a story of pie in Iowa
Yes.
where my mom and my aunt we were looking for a place, and we were just like on a map, and it was like, there's a restaurant by the river, and this didn't look like a real place, but it was the best pie we've ever had. We've gone back to it several times since then, because you just happened upon it. So getting away from, the tourist places. I mean, obviously, if you're in a really touristy location, the restaurants there are going to be a little pricier. The food's probably
Right.
going to be mediocre. There might be some good places, but I would definitely believe that you're going to get better stuff kind of venturing out a little bit, but you have to be safe and know what you're doing. So,
Right.
ask around and talk to some folks, and,
Yeah, just
but
do your research. I mean, even in Vegas, I mean, you've got all
right,
the celebrity restaurants at the Strip, in the casinos, and you're probably going to have an amazing experience, but that's that experience. And it
right.
does cost for that. And
Yep.
that's maybe one thing, but if you literally ask, and, there's a whole Asian community, and there's some fabulous little restaurants. I mean, literally, like, several of them. And, it depends if you just want pho or if you want, Chinese or Taiwanese, or, I mean, every nationality. And you'll get some great suggestions, and you'll go there, and you may not be able to read the menu, but venture out and give it a try.
Give it
Someone
a
in
try.
there is going to speak English. Ask questions, tell them what you can or can't eat, and you'll have an amazing experience.
And I think that's the real thing, is ask people where they go. I
Yes.
mean, like you're saying, like, where are they going to have coffee later? Where did they get their breakfast this morning? I like to ask people where they would take somebody on a special occasion, because that'll give you the nice place,
Oh,
right? But
yeah.
they like it. So if you're going to spend an extra dollar or two, but just asking those questions, like, where's your favorite breakfast place? Where's your favorite
Right.
sandwich? Where has the best burger, right?
Right. Right.
And the one you eat. I know when we were reading the book Eating Vietnam, the gentleman who wrote that book, I can't remember his name, he said, ask 3 times. Ask them,
Oh,
and then when they tell you, go, no, 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 I want where you eat. And then they'll tell you again and say, no, 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 where you actually go this morning. Like, you
right.
have to kind of push a little, especially outside of the country, and especially if you're an American, because I think a lot of times people will look at you and go, oh, you want the American version of our
Yeah.
food. And it's like,
Right.
no, no, I want all the craziness. I want everything you eat.
Right.
I want the
Exactly.
authentic stuff. And so you have to dig a little deeper, and definitely the prices will go down
Yes.
most of the time. And then you'll get more authentic, home cooked kind of meals. So
Right. Right.
so much fun. That's a great way. Just ask, and ask about, we were talking about food, but you can also ask about entertainment, right? Like, where do they go to
Yes.
listen to music, or where do they go to the movies, or what do they do for entertainment? Do they watch sports, right? Like those kinds of things.
Right. And sometimes it's not easy to find that on your own. I know
Mhm.
one of the women came to New England, I think a day before our trip started, and she literally talked to the woman behind the counter, and she's like, well, where is the, just the local hang? Where do you guys go for music? And the
Right.
woman told her where this little club was down on Main Street. Like she said, there's not a lot of room there. And they actually were kind enough at the end of one of their shifts. They drove her there. She
Wow.
went, she had a great time.
That's
When
lovely.
it, yeah, and when it ended, she was standing on the curb, and she was going to look and call Uber or whatever to get back to the hotel. And a couple ladies were there chatting, and she started chatting with them, and they all realized they were staying in the same hotel or not far away. And they're like, oh, come on with us. We'll just take you. And she's like, okay. And these things happen.
It does. It all happens. And, you want to think about everything from like music that you like, or comedy shows, or Do you like to go see live plays? Like all that stuff is happening that's not in the guidebook. And the
Right.
locals, right, they're looking for that. They know where it's all happening. I mean, I would even venture to tell you that if you're really trying to connect with locals, go to a high school play. Go to
Right.
like a high school football game. Like it doesn't probably cost more than $5 if it even costs to get in. You can have a hot dog and actually watch. I mean, obviously here in the States, watching a high school football game would be amazing, but you go to Spain and watch high school or school age children play soccer, or someplace else, go to England, watch somebody play cricket. Like you can just go
Yeah,
all over and
exactly.
watch the sport and interact with those people. Definitely would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah, it
And
really would.
yeah, and just experience like that local thing. I know that we just talked to somebody who does tours by locals, and there's another organization called Free Tours on Foot. Um, and we bring this one up because the people who run those tours are locals.
Yes, they are. And they're very passionate oftentimes about about their city, about where they live, about
Mhm.
showing you things that, again, may not always be in the guidebook. They have different themes of tours often. Often you can email them and just say, these are my interests. What would you
Yeah.
suggest? And they'll help you sort through their different offerings. They're really passionate about showing off their city, the history.
Mhm.
Again, a great source to ask, like where they would eat, what's
Mhm.
happening on a Friday night.
And those tours are pretty economical, and they're usually short. So maybe you're,
Right.
in a city somewhere and you want to just, you're not really sure what to do for tonight for dinner. Well, grab one of those tours by locals or free tours on foot, and take an afternoon tour of a building, architecture, something like that, and then ask them, where do I go
Yeah.
for dinner? And they'll tell you.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Sometimes they'll join you, and then you'll have this whole other thing. But
I
yeah,
know.
that's a great way. And even I think we've mentioned it before, like the civic organizations that do like tours with libraries and city halls and so forth. Again, those are run by docents who are local. So they'll also know, and those might be economical, another way to kind of
Yeah.
connect.
Right. Connect, save money, find some
Mhm.
more unique ways to spend your time. And
Yeah. Yeah. We got two other things on our list. I'm going to talk about public transportation because it's one of my favorite things. I use a lot of public transit here in Los Angeles, and I encourage people to do it. It's always on my list to do when I travel, even if I don't need to. I feel like connecting with the local transportation makes me feel like I live there. So even
right.
if I could and I don't need to take it, just hopping on the bus, hopping on the subway, whatever they have. Now I'm with the people that are going back and forth to work, and, going away, maybe going to school, like taking their children to and from school. So it's a good way to connect with people, and you can ask questions. It's an opportunity to be like,
Yeah.
I'm looking at my phone and I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go. And somebody will just help you, and that can spark a conversation. So public transportation,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love public transportation. And it's actually just fun to, like, depending on what city you're in, if, in
Mhm.
LA, we're so bound to our cars, and most of the
Yes.
United States, we're not used to public transportation and tubes and different places to
Yeah.
get off. But it's so much fun. And if you're they're got you're it's hard not to look like you're out of place.
Right.
As much as you try hard to blend in and all of that, you are going to be
Yeah.
different. You're looking at the stops, but someone, honestly, even in Charleston, will notice that, maybe you're not sure where you want to go, and they'll just ask, or they'll
Mhm.
say, "Oh, that conversation gets started, and you might find some new place to get off," or just it's fun just to ride it and see where you
Yes.
might end up, see,
I,
kind of get the overview of the city. I love
I
doing those buses and stuff.
Yeah, I have definitely done that. And I used to be a big subway fanatic when I went to New York City because it's so fast to get from one end to the other. But I don't recall how I started taking the bus. But once I started on the bus, I was like, I'd much rather, because I can see the city because you're above ground.
Yeah.
And so it's even though the bus would take me a little longer to get there because they too have traffic, I really enjoyed just hopping on the bus and going, I don't know, even a place that maybe I wouldn't walk, it's too far, but I would just
Yeah.
hop on it and then wait and turn around and come back. I mean, I'm just exploring the city and looking for a place to eat later, or public transit is a fantastic way. And it also just lets you know how it works,
Right. I
right?
think
Like
that's
what they
another,
do.
yeah, what they
Yeah.
do. Even in cities like London, the Thames River, there's a public transportation boat. So it's
Right.
cheaper than quote the tourist tour, but you get
Yes.
to see the same, you're seeing the same river, you're seeing the like the
Yes.
landmarks of the city, and you're with locals because they're using it to get from, one area of the city to another. It's
Yep.
really inexpensive. It's a lot cheaper.
Yep.
And you can hop on, hop off kind of thing. And then you kind of get used to how it works when it's busier, all of
Mhm.
that. It's fabulous.
Yep. Yep. And then I think the last thing we had on the list, standing idle somewhere. So this was actually uh someone else's tip, and I can't remember her name. Zinnia's tip, right?
Oh, yes.
She told us, and she's so wise. She said, if you want people to talk to you, go somewhere where the people are just kind of mulling around. And I've met more people like that,
Yeah.
where you're just like either standing in line or waiting for public transit, or because people have a tendency when you're bored to just kind of, oh, so what are you doing? And talk.
Right.
It's a good place to connect with somebody, is find a place where people are just sort of wandering or aimless for a bit, waiting to get into a museum, maybe.
Well, even at the local, like if you find there's like a little market, some of the
Mhm,
convenience stores, go in there, maybe walk around, pick up an item or two. But if you notice a line, that's a prime opportunity. Oftentimes
mhm.
you're waiting in line, you're,
Yeah.
they're in line too. And just to pass that time, it's like, oh, this or that. It's a great opportunity to chat with a local.
Right. And just finding yourself, and don't be afraid to say anything. I think she also mentioned that, and I love that too. Just there's not a stupid question. You may, don't be shy if somebody kind of shuts you down or is like, oh no, I'm not interested. I mean, they're busy. Maybe they're going to work, or maybe they haven't had a day like you've had. You're on vacation, right? So
Right.
who knows what their day is like. Just try again. Somebody else will be, more open about talking. Just keep at it. I
And
think
that
it's
reminds me that Zinnia also had a good tip too. It's like it's easy to find something to compliment someone on. The
Mhm.
person standing in line that has a little child start smiling at the child or comment like, "Oh, what a, pretty shirt you have on." I mean,
Yes.
how we all like to hear a compliment, find something that's positive like that. And right there you've kind of positively opened up the conversation without a direct question of, where do you eat? Like, you got to kind of like break the ice first a little,
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
cashier, the same thing, like, oh, well, how's your day going?
Mhm.
I love your hair. I love, the blouse
Yeah.
you're wearing. I think she mentioned that too, that it really worked. People are
They do.
receptive to that. I mean, oftentimes people don't compliment us or say something nice. And so it's nice just to smile. I think she mentioned too, just a simple,
Just sit and smile,
yeah,
and
just sit
and
and
and be
smile.
approachable, and be receptive when people talk to you too. I mean, again, you want to be safe, but you definitely need to be open to the conversation if you're planning to meet locals. And I think that has to do with like finding the place where you feel safest to connect with. I mean, the tours for locals that we talked about, that's a safe bet, right?
Right.
It's somebody, they're probably interested in talking to you. You can do that. Standing in this line at the convenience store, it's probably 50-50 that they're actually going to
Yeah.
respond. And that's okay. It's just like smile and, hey, how was your day? And if they jump in, then
Right.
you've got something. Otherwise, just keep going on and say it to someone else. And being open to the invitations that they offer. I know I was in Belize, and a woman and I kept going back to the same restaurant for breakfast. And she was American. She was working at a church there, and so we just saw each other a couple of times. And then after like the second or third time, she asked if she could join me. And I mean, I didn't know her. I wasn't really like genuinely like, oh, I'm dying to know what she's doing here. She was looking for a little company. And I was like, oh, okay, this will be interesting. So she joined. And then we kind of had breakfast there a couple of days in a row. And it was lovely to learn about what she was doing. And, again, it just expanded my opportunities. Had I not said yes, or had I been a little standoffish, she probably would have been, oh, sorry, didn't mean to,
Right. Right.
approach you. So it is all in your, where, how you,
It's what you kind of
your
put
attitude,
out
what you
there.
put out
Yeah,
there.
it's kind
Exactly.
of
There you
what
go.
you put out there, and it's balancing that line of I often say it too, like when you're showing curiosity, oftentimes
Yes.
when I'm got my camera out and I'm showing an interest in something, it's amazing how someone will pull up. And at first, you might be a little like cautious, of course. And then, they're asking like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And you're
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I'm admiring your nice barn and these trees." Then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, well, if you just drive down the hill, you might see some more," or give you another place to check out. Or the same thing with, your lodging, the people you're
Yeah.
staying with. That's really genuinely safe. I mean, the people at the Airbnbs or the bed
Right.
and breakfast, they don't want to send you somewhere that's going to be uncomfortable or sketchy. And they're going to tell you up front, like,
Mhm.
if you're not wanting to be real, if you want, it's kind of loud there, maybe if you're
Right.
wanting something quieter, there's this option. So just communicating that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's some really great stuff. So I think we covered everything, April. We
Yeah.
covered all the beforehand and after, and we've got a few folks again, just chatting away. I really love that everybody's sharing their
Oh, good. That's
public
great.
transportation they like. Yeah, often some great stuff out there. If you're willing to experiment, right? If you're willing
Right,
to
right. Yeah.
open things up, and I think at least I hope that we all are a little more open when we travel, right? Like that's the whole idea. You might be at home and busy and you've got the stresses of your life, but when you travel, just like let some of that go and be willing
Right,
to talk to
exactly. Be
people.
willing to talk to people and open your world up. I mean, that's really a part of the reason you're traveling. And if you just
Right.
stick in your little bubble with your little group or your little that's all you're going to
Yeah.
get. And it's not going to be as memorable as, say, "Oh, yeah, we met this person who suggested this," or "I went to this local pub. I didn't know what was going to happen." But, those are the best stories. So,
They are.
Cindy and I want to thank everyone for joining us and listening. Saturday, we do a great coffee chat where you all will be on the call and can share your stories. This week, it's travel surprises. So it's a
Yay.
perfect opportunity to share an unexpected encounter you had with a local or something that was a surprise you didn't know you were going to go do. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Tell us what you liked, what you want to hear more of. You can find us on Facebook, and we'll put the contacts and the
In the
copies
description.
in the description. So,
Yeah. And if you've had a great story, just put it in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories, as I'm sure
yes.
all of the other folks that are watching and following would like to hear your stories too. So we will see anyone who wants to have coffee with us on Saturday,
Yep.
and we'll be back here next week with more stuff. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.